Failure at 40.
Failure at 40.
Can you still be fulfilled at 40 without the partner, without the children, the career, or the beautiful home all in the picture?
Failure at 40 interviews, debates, and discusses the reality of turning 40.
You enjoy your work, it doesn't feel hard. So I would say, like, don't chase the money, chase your passion.
Failure at 40.
I wish somebody had told me that we create our reality as well. So like how we think really, really affects how we feel.
Failure at 40.
Failure at 40 challenges the notion of failure and redefines what success looks like to you.
Who says if you haven't reached all of your goals by 40 that you're not a success?
Failure at 40 interviews, debates and discusses the reality of turning 40 in modern Britain. Welcome to Failure at 40. Failure at 40. Failure at 40. Failure at 40.
Welcome back to another episode of Failure at 40. I'm Shelley, the life coach.
And I'm Renee, the producer.
And on today's show, we have Stef Johnson, who's a hypnotherapist from the north of England, not married with one child. Welcome to the podcast, Stephanie.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being on with us today. We want to know if you take yourself back to your 20s, maybe early 30s, when you were building all your hopes and desires and dreams yourself and what your future might look like. What did you picture yourself doing at 40? What did you think 40 would look like for you?
Oh, God. Definitely thought I would be in the peak of my career. Thought I'd probably be settled down, married, maybe a couple of children. 40 seemed so old when I used to be around my 20s. I used to think, 40 was years away and really old, and yeah, it's completely not where I am.
And now it's around the corner.
Yeah, exactly.
Doesn't it come really quickly?
Oh, yes.
How old are you now?
Nearly 39.
And tell us a little bit about your background and where you're from, what kind of household you grew up in, what kind of things informed how you thought about turning 40 or your life in general.
So I'm from South London. So I lived with my mum. My mum and dad split up when I was really small. So it was mostly me and my mum. So when I was young, though, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I kind of followed in my mum's footsteps in like admin roles. I was an only child, so I loved just being out and socialising. So I just kind of enjoyed living the life, really. And it was only till I got to my 30s that I really thought about settling down and having children and that type of life. But yeah, so I was in like admin and just enjoying life and friends and not really thinking about like the big picture.
What's your background in terms of ethnicity?
So my dad is Barbados, my mum is mixed Jamaican and English.
And how did that feel growing up in that household with that mix, especially in South London? How did you define yourself?
It's just mixed race, really. I didn't feel any way. My friends was most of my friends were black. Didn't feel any different. Where we lived was very diverse. I didn't notice any. We just, we used to just enjoy life at that age and being young, and yeah, it was fine.
So the idea that you had that you would, when you turned 40, that you potentially would have been in a marriage, some kids or partner, where did that idea come from?
It was more society of what you think, what you feel like you should do. I always knew I wanted to have children, more than one really, and I wanted a stable family. Because my mum and dad split up when I was little, I kind of wanted to have the family, and feel secure and give a child that stable mum and dad, and yeah.
So in your like 20s, were you actively trying to make that happen? Did you look into the future and think, right, if I want to have a husband and a child when I'm 40, like I should be trying to date now? Was that a pressure for you?
Not at that age, no. I think I didn't really start thinking about that sort of, maybe when I was like late 20s, I would say. the early 20s, no, I was more like just working. Yeah, not really thinking about children at that age. No, I was more like just working hard and enjoying and seeing friends, and I still felt like I was young.
Yeah, well, you were. You know,
Yeah.
your 20s are your young age, aren't they?
Yeah,
but
true,
so what happens in your late 20s that made you then start thinking about it? Was it just you were getting older?
Yeah, more the age, like, oh wow, I'm becoming 30 now, and it's like, oh my gosh, you know, it's time to really think about what you know, what you're doing with your life, and it is. I felt within myself, okay, I would like to become a mum now. I'm ready to find somebody that I really want to settle down. I think I didn't have like a long stable relationship, so I had on and off relationships, but so I like really was ready to settle down and have a child and children. Or
Do you feel like your career was kind of almost overshadowing the idea and the future that you possibly then had later on in your 30s?
possibly, yes. It was like admin roles, and at the time I was striving to be like, you know, the corporate world. So I was in the corporate world in the West End. I enjoyed it, but then so what happened around 29, 30, I started to not enjoy the corporate world anymore. And then I actually got really low. I got depressed in that environment. Leading up to my late 30s was when, you know, I started to think about life a bit more, and you start to analyze and reflect what you've done with your life, where you want to go. And I'm not sure if that's what made me start to feel. I can't remember really what triggered it, but looking back, I feel like it was just the environment and being around.
What was happening in that environment? How would you describe how it felt?
It was just the corporate environment, very rushed. The people that I was working with was not really my type of people, but you do it because it's your job sort of thing. It was a very busy type of company. There were thousands of people within the building. You know, being an admin, people were rude to you. People want things like yesterday. And it wasn't very nice. I'd been there like 5 years, I think, already at that time. And I just found myself, you know, being really low when I was in the building. And then I'd be okay at the weekends. And then I'd just like Monday and I'd be like, oh, you know, back to work. So it started.
That's how you know you're in the wrong job. When you start hating Mondays.
Yes.
That's the beginning of the end.
Yeah, exactly.
How did you then like know what you wanted to do? Did you have like, other aspirations for careers that you hadn't really pursued?
Not at that time. So what happened was where I got into quite a low state and being quite depressed, and then you realise that the GPs and the doctors don't really want to help you. They just want to give you medication. So I started researching on ways that would help me to feel better. And I came across holistic and alternative therapies. I found like energy healing. So I started having energy healing myself, and it really turned my life around to the point that I realised that that's what I wanted to do.
Can you explain to us a little bit more about that? Yeah, what is energy healing?
Reiki healing. So it's like an energy technique where the person will channel like universal, I don't know if you've heard of chi, but like energy into me, and it just kind of balances you out, balances your mind, your body, your spirit, and gets you back into an alignment. So it can take a few sessions, but I found myself feeling so much better after having those sessions, and it intrigued me into that way of life, and I ended up learning it for myself. So
wow.
I started looking into ways that I can help other people, which going around the houses, I tried lots of different therapies, which ended up leading me to hypnotherapy. I love Reiki and always, so I still do that on the side as well.
So I was just thinking a little bit about some of the relationships that might have informed your idea or not informed your idea of having a family by 40, because it seems like you weren't thinking about it, but probably in relationships. So I'm thinking, were you in relationships in your 20s?
Yes, I was. So I had a long-term relationship for about 5 years. Then I had, I think, then I was single for a while. Then during my times of feeling a bit low, I met I met someone who was a kind of like a friend that I've known from back in the day. So we became friends, which turned into a relationship. At that time, I wasn't in the best of places. So looking back, it probably wasn't the best idea. That relationship ended up, he was my child's father. It didn't end in how I wanted things to be when I was 40 and had children. And, you know, I wanted that family life. I waited until I got to that age. I was 32 when I had my son.
Do you feel like when you were in sort of like a low place that you maybe attracted people similar to how you were feeling?
Oh, definitely, yeah. Yeah. Looking back, because I didn't understand it at the time, really, but I know now that you attract how you feel. So you attract kind of, you know, and when you're in that kind of state, you're not making logical decisions. So you're kind of feeling a vulnerable place in a way, really.
So you described wanting to have a situation that made you feel secure. I remember you using that word in particular, different to what you had when you were growing up, you said. So tell us a little bit about your life growing up and what about that particular environment made you want something different for yourself?
So growing up, when my mum and dad was together, again, it wasn't the best. My dad was very aggressive, and I remember feeling fear a lot and scared of my dad a lot. I wanted, you know, you want to do different to how you had. I never felt that from my mum. I was very close to my mum, but I probably made my mum my whole world. So yeah, so you want to give your child that stable mum, dad, that they feel loved. So what you learn when you realise isn't the right thing, and how it's affected me being a bit insecure and being a bit fearful and not really liking confrontation. When it's the time to have children myself, I wanted to make sure that I was old enough, and, you know, doing it when you're older, you'd make better decisions, you'd have, you know, more of a stable life to give them. But yeah, you realise that these type of things still doesn't plan out how you want it, really.
And how would you have described your ideal husband?
You know, someone that is kind, loyal, loving, fun. You know, I love laughter and to have fun and not take the pee, I'm allowed to say, you know.
Have you met anybody like that on your journey?
I have. When I was younger, so I wasn't really ready to have children at that time. So like early 20s, you know, I was in a relationship for 5 years and he was great, but we just kind of drifted apart. And, you know, there are good men out there too.
Do you think there were any expectations put on you, be it by yourself, your family, your friends, of the things that they expected you to have, whether it was to be in a relationship, whether it was to have a really great, nice car, house, career? What do you think was put upon you?
I remember feeling a bit of pressure, not so much from my mom, actually, a little bit. So when I was getting to like late 20s, like, when you're going to have a child. So yeah, did feel a little bit of pressure, but I wanted it
was
for
that
myself.
From your mum?
Yeah, mum, families, like my aunties, a bit. Yeah, a little bit. We're going to have a child, and not really like the whole material. I mean, I've always had a car and stuff, so like the materialistic things. And when I was in the corporate world, you know, you had those things, but it's not always about the materialistic things at the time. But yeah, I did feel a little bit of pressure to have children. Like, you're going to be 30 soon and you're going to have kids and settle down. And yeah, a little bit, actually.
How did you handle the pressure? Did it affect you, or were you not bothered?
No, I wasn't really that bothered, to be honest. I didn't feel like I wouldn't have it, but it was, at the time, it was hard to find someone that was decent, that, you know, that you really clicked with, and
that was obviously more important to you.
Oh yes, yeah, that was very important. And then what happened is that where I got into my low state, I wasn't in the best position to make those decisions, really, and then just life just kind of happened.
When you say life just happens, what does that mean?
I felt low. You know, I got depressed. I met somebody who I thought was great, and, you know, like, probably that was going to help me through it. And rather than taking control of my life, I think I allowed life to I flowed with it. I went with it rather than realizing, actually, this isn't right, you know? because we can take control, and I didn't.
Do you feel like you wanted somebody to look after you, or just to make you feel safe and just look after you, really?
In those moments, yeah, I think. And I'm not normally like that, but I think at that time, yes, probably, maybe I did.
And did you think that you could see that person fulfilling some of the vision you had for yourself by the time you turned 40? So if it was your little one's father, then potentially he might have been part of the vision.
When I first met him, yes, definitely, yeah.
And how would you have described that relationship?
At first, it was nice. There was a friendship first, so we had a lot of things in common. We used to go out, we used to have fun. He'd bring me around his friends, so it was nice. It was like a friendship at first. So we had the laughs, and he was kind, attentive. When I was feeling like not great, he would help me in terms of like, helping me to do things that would make me feel better. And so kind of what you would want in a beginning of a relationship, and the friendship part of it, yeah.
Were able to turn your career around. So you hated your job, realised it wasn't working for you, luckily discovered this new world of energy healing and became a hypnotherapist. Were you able to do the same things in other areas of your life, like turn around maybe your relationship situation? How did you figure that out?
I kind of missed out a big bit, which is like how I ended up becoming a hypnotherapist. So I had my child. Okay, so when I got pregnant, the relationship went downhill and he became abusive, mentally abusive mostly. And then when my child was born, he became physically abusive. When it just got too much, I left and I ran. And I went to a women's refuge. And I spent 6 months in a refuge. And I've moved across to a whole different part of the country and started a new life with my child. And that's when, so it was very, very hard at first, very, very hard. I was like I completely lost myself. Felt alone and, but the strength of being, having my son gave me the strength that I needed to just do what I needed to do. But I lost myself in the process. So I made sure his needs was taken care of fully. But, I lost me. So after, trying to settle into my new home in the new area, after about a year, I started to started to think I need to do something with my life. And I started studying again, and some friends supported me, and I started learning NLP, a lot of mindset stuff. I was into the law of attraction and trying to change how I thought. And I studied and I learned loads of different, The Secret. I watched it all. And then I ended up finding hypnotherapy. So then, I studied for a year and a half in hypnotherapy. And literally changed my life around. And now I am who I'm meant to be. I love where I live now. I'm near the country. It's beautiful. It's great for my boy. But it's been a long journey. And it took a long time to get myself back. So, but I do believe that it's all happened so that it's happened for a reason. And I'm stronger now, and I'm a better person now. And I know boundaries. I've learned that we create our own reality, which was a bit of a bitter pill to swallow, but we create our life, and very spiritual now.
How does that affect your vision of what you want for 40? Because you're not 40 yet. You seem to have navigated a lot, grown through a lot. So has that changed what you'd like for yourself?
I'm single, but I have hope that I might possibly meet somebody. And if I don't, I don't. At the moment now, it's just making sure my son grows. He has what he needs. I work from home, so I'm able to be there for him and give him that love and nurture that he needs. And just expand on the business a lot so that I can provide nicely, comfortably. And yeah, I would love to be settled. I realize, you have the vision in your head, and I'm more of a go with the flow now. I don't, the vision, what I did want. I just want to, I think a big word for me has always been freedom. I want the freedom lifestyle for me and my son. Whether that comes when I'm 40 or not, it's absolutely okay, because I believe in divine timing. So I'm okay with how things have worked now, and I know I'm in the right direction.
So just staying on the same line then, same thought. So what does life look like now for you at 40? Well, not at 40, but life for you now. In terms of what do you do now? Describe hypnotherapy to us a little bit more. How do you feel about yourself and your lifestyle now? Are you happy?
Yes, I'm happy. Hypnotherapy, I'm a solution-focused hypnotherapist, so we focus more on the future and the solution. So I don't really go into people's pasts and bring up triggers for them, because it's not always helpful, believe it or not. So it's more goal orientated. I'm quite an empath, so I didn't, to be honest, want to be able to sit there all day and listen to people's bad stories. I want to take them from where they are in the present and look to the future. So how they want to feel, where they want to go. And we work on that part of it. And I work the school hours, and so I can pick my son up from school, which is important to me. And we've got a nice life. It's been a bit hard with all the lockdown stuff, but there's lots to do for the children around here. There's lots of greenery. We go to farms and we do that. I really live that kind of life, So it's nice. I'm happy. I would like to meet somebody, but it's really more about him and giving my son that kind of. I realise how important it is for a child between the years of 0 to 7 and what we give them and feed them, their minds. So I really wanted to make sure that he knows he's fully loved and he doesn't see things he shouldn't see. So I'm quite mindful of that. So he's the most important one to me right now. I'm happy with how things are now.
You were just saying that your son was, I guess, what motivated you to get yourself out of that situation. And you've gone through a huge transformation in your life in that sense. You were on one track and you managed to turn it around, and now you're clearly in a much better place. But what do you think that, in the depths of those feelings, gave you the strength to get up and make that change? Because there might be women listening to you now who might be in that position themselves. Where did you find that strength and motivation to because it must have been really difficult to get away from an abusive partner and have to move your whole life. How did you navigate all of that?
See, when it was against me, you take it. It's when it affected my son. He was a baby. He was 1. And there was an incident where my son got hurt. And that was the final straw. So the same day I left.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the incident when he got hurt?
He bit my son out of anger. I don't even know what I can't really ever understand what it was, but it was enough. And
what went through your mind at that time? What did you think?
Okay, I was just like, that was it. That was it. Called one of my friends that lived about 10 minutes from me at the time. And I begged her to come to the house. Begged her.
Did she know what happened? Did she know before she came? Okay, no. So you got her there.
Yeah, I got her there. And then when we was able to, she kind of knew what was going on, but she didn't know the incident. But when we was able to be alone, I just packed my bag and we went to the police.
You really need your friends in those moments, don't you?
Yeah, you do. You really, really do. And you don't listen when it's against me as a woman, you put up with it, you take it. But it is that final straw when you realise that, your child.
How helpful or how easy, not easy, but how was it when you went to see the police? How supportive were they? How was that process for you?
They was actually really good. They was good. It was still something that was hard for me. I don't even remember it being my choice at the time to go. I just wanted to leave. But by that time, my friend, I told my mum, it was one of them things that you realise that, once you tell them, you can't go back. So it needed to happen. But then they was very supportive. I went and stayed with a friend until they found us accommodation. And even social services was good because they have to get involved because the child was involved. So that side of it, they was good.
So had you not told any of your friends before?
No, I did, but only two. I didn't really tell my mum. So yeah, two of my friends knew. And then one of my friends, once it got bad, she was the one who rang my mum because obviously I'm telling her stuff and she's like, yeah, because my ex threatened to kill me, threatened to kill my child, I think the day before, all of that. And I told her, yeah, she called the police. No, sorry, she called my mum. So it was just like, yeah, it's time.
But how did you feel about her sharing that with your mum at the time?
I understood that. I probably would have done the same, to be honest.
It is really difficult for a friend to sit back and watch someone they love go through all that. Of course, yeah. And so especially if you're the only friend that they've told or one of only two friends, you then start to feel really responsible for them.
Of course. And I just used to say to her, please don't tell anyone, please don't tell anyone. And it was only till my son got hurt that I was like, okay, I get it now, like I'm ready. So yeah. And then, so within a week, they moved me into an accommodation and that was hard.
But well done for doing it. That's the first step, right? And you did it.
Failure at 40.
Failure at 40.
Steph, I was thinking a little bit about what you were saying about when it's you just take it. But when it's your child, you protect them. I think you mentioned that twice. And I was just thinking where you might have learned or seen someone or a woman where she's had to take something continuously and now it's taken hold in your life, or where do you think that thought came from?
Not having any confidence in myself, really. And I was scared. I was scared of what could possibly happen. So I was probably, scared to tell my family because of there'd probably be a war. I was scared to really confront. And I felt like if I'd confront and stood up for myself, I'd make it worse. So it's more about my own insecurities and the fear. And as I said, my dad was quite an aggressive man. So I learned to not talk back. And that kind of stayed with me, the confrontation. I've never liked confrontation. And then obviously I had a child. So the minute I say, oh, that's it, done, I then have to hand my child over. And I didn't trust him with my child at that point.
So if you stayed in the relationship, then you'd actually have more vision over your child because actually the contact's going to take place and you're going to be present.
Yeah.
Wow. You're almost enjoying that so you could keep him safe.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's hard to say, but looking back, it's like I needed something big to happen. Not that I wanted that to happen, but on the little minor occasions, then I would have had to keep handing my son over. And I know what I went through as a child. It damages you. I don't know. I wasn't thinking that straight, but I knew that I didn't think my son would be safe.
Had you seen warning signs in him before? Are there things that you can recommend women look out for, like red flags that you might have seen, but you decided to overlook for whatever reason, you wasn't that worried about it, but then turned into...
You get that gut instinct. I do remember having that feeling, that gut feeling, and I ignored it because I was low and I wasn't in a good place and I didn't trust myself at the time to, you know, when you get that gut feeling in your belly, and we always ignore it and then regret things. And that first sign of like manipulation, he didn't, you know, he wasn't physical until I'd already had the child, but that kind of, it was like mental manipulation, but trying to be smart with it, you know. Oh, I don't think you should do that. Yeah, things like that. Family, you know, when they don't get on with their mums and their families, and, you know, look into things a little bit more if they've got
with
children.
Their own mums, you mean? When they don't get on with their own mums, yeah.
Yeah. You know, I mean, sometimes there's reasons for it, but yeah, but I definitely would say go with the gut. We do get that gut feeling as you know, our bodies are senses, and we overlook these things. And when they're just rude unnecessarily to other people, you know, yeah.
It's embarrassing for you, isn't it, as well, when you're with someone that's like that with your family and then you make excuses for them because you're so embarrassed about it.
Yes. Yeah.
But we just ignore that, don't we? Rather than think,
Yeah.
I suppose I was just thinking, the reason that I was asking you a little bit about your own history and how that then impacts your present. And you were kind of saying, you know, our bodies are sensors, you know, and if we've kind of, some of those senses have been muffled through our life journeys, you know, sometimes we aren't tuning in or hearing or seeing the things that are red flags. You know?
Definitely. Yeah.
Especially because we're taught sometimes through what we've seen, you know, even as children, and we act that out in our adulthood.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. There's a cycle. And yeah, I do have seen it quite a lot, that in families, there's a cycle and it takes someone to break it, you know, and I've said it stops with my son and never again. But it's hard. And, you know, even when I look back and knowing what you know, my son's dad, he didn't have a nice childhood. He didn't know how to love. Doesn't excuse it. But you can understand if they don't get the love when they're children, you can go either way sometimes. So
would you have described him as the sort of person you thought would have this in him at the time when you were with him?
Not at first, no. If I'd have met somebody like that now, who I am today, I may have noticed it, I may have seen it. But then when you're stressed and you're down and you're depressed, you don't have the intellect to make good decisions. I may not have seen it, but at the time he was lovely. He was good to me.
And I think this is one of the things for women to think about when they're vulnerable and you feel like you need something, but you can't put your finger on what the something is that you need to make you feel better. Someone comes along and they feel like healing, you know, at that time, right? And you realize actually they can just see that you're vulnerable, you know, possibly sometimes. And I think a lot of us, you know, myself included, you know, you feel like you're missing something and then something comes along that seems like it could be the thing you need, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
And actually it's just another vulnerable person who's found another vulnerable person. And actually they need you more than you need them, you know, quite often. And like you say, it's this learning journey that we go on. And it's only as we get older that we realize, this is that.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. It makes sense. Definitely. It's hard.
I love that you were depressed and the doctors tried to encourage you to take drugs and you was like, no, actually I'm going to find an alternative. I'm going to find a more natural way of healing yourself.
I did go on antidepressants, but they didn't do anything. And I realized that actually they wasn't helping. They don't help. You don't get to realize what they don't get to the reason why you feel like that. They don't want to help you get to the reason why they don't want to help you get to the root. So I did try them because I was working and I was in that corporate environment. I didn't want to lose my job. So I did, but I knew that that wasn't the way. And I'm like, am I going to be on these forever? Am I going to, so I looked at a different way because it's like a superficial.
It's like a plaster,
fake,
isn't it?
Yeah, it's like a fake happiness.
It just covers it up. Yeah.
Yeah. So no, I did. And I don't judge anybody that does because they do make you feel better. But I didn't really, it's like after a while it stops working and then you go back and then they're like, oh, we have to up the dose. And I was just like, this isn't good. So that was, I realized that I did at the same time look, and then I could wean myself off and try different things.
So you must be helping lots of people who were originally in the same position as you then through hypnotherapy.
Yes. Yeah, I do. It's funny how you attract the same women that have been through the same, but I'm passionate about helping women empower themselves and realizing that they don't have to deal with that, and it's just building up their strength, getting them into their intellectual part of their mind to be able to make the right decisions. When you're that stressed and low, you have the intelligence of a 5-year-old. You can't think straight. And that's just people that are like in severe stress mode, So it's hypnotherapy basically rewires the mind, rewires the brain into the positive suggestions, into thinking more logically and positively. So we call it trance. So it's like hypnosis, but we call it trance. But it's a natural thing, and we go into it quite a lot naturally. If you drive from one place to another and you don't remember the journey because you kind of zone out, or So it's just that, really, like a daydream, and you're in a relaxed. We guide you into a relaxed state where you're like in a daydream and you're in control the whole time.
When I think of hypnotherapy, I think of that TV show with Paul McKenna back in the day, where he'd literally like have a panel of people on the stage and make them do crazy things. Is that?
Yeah,
it's not. It's like?
No, it's completely not like that.
And you haven't got like a watch.
No.
No, Winnie, darling.
I know. I had no idea. I didn't even know it was an actual therapy. I thought it was just like a party trick.
It's clinical hypnotherapy, and it's completely different. So what Paul McKenna does is like stage hypnotherapy, stage hypnosis, and it is completely different. And the people that is more for entertainment. This is really good for clinically depressed, for stress, anxiety, and loads of other things as well.
Does it work on everyone?
Yes, it can.
Does it?
It can. Yeah. So it's just, we do psychotherapy. The first half of the session, we'll talk and find out what your best hopes are for going forward. And then we work on that. We talk about that. And then we take the positives of where you want to be, and we put that into the positive suggestions that we feed back, and we just give you a nice relaxing story and give you some nice change. You can our brains are soft. We're able to rewire the brain, and our brains are we call it neuroplasticity, where we can rewire the neurons and change. So you don't have to stay low and depressed and bring a nice positive change.
So interesting. It's so interesting. My gosh. And do you find that you're getting your client base is growing, and how are you growing that? Where are people finding you?
So I was in a nice little clinic, which was great, but due to lockdown, obviously that closed. I've moved it online, and I slowed it down a little bit because obviously I had my son at home. So it's just branching back out online, but it's slowly picking back up again. So it's okay with, online social media. Yeah, no, it's nice. It's fun, and it relaxes me when I do it as well. So
it's becoming less airy-fairy. I think people are a lot more comfortable with these things now, whereas maybe 10 years ago you would have been looked at a bit funny because
Oh yeah,
you've seen
definitely.
those.
I love all the airy fairy stuff, to be fair. But yeah, no, it's definitely not. It's becoming more recognized now. So that's really good because it does really, really help.
Are you finding you've got lots of young people coming to you, or is it an older?
It's across the board, you know. I've got lovely old ladies, and I've got some young people. I've got actually no, I do have two men. So yeah, it's mostly women. It's mostly women, but it can be all ages because an old lady coming to me because she bites her nails, you know. So it could be you can come for all different things as well. But no, I love it. I'm really, you know, I feel that I'm helping, which is I feel like I'm where I should be now with my passion and helping people.
And have you ever had a chance to talk about the things that you've been through?
No.
No, like maybe more like therapeutic or in a way where you've been able to, because it sounds like you're able to help a lot of people. And I wonder how you're able to manage what you think, what you feel, and what you've journeyed through.
I don't really talk about my story to my clients because I don't want to overshadow where they've been. But I do say it to them as in that I can relate, I understand, and I've helped many people that have been where they are, sort of thing. But
so you don't get a space for you anywhere.
We all have to have, every therapist, hypnotherapist has to have like a supervisor. So that can, so where you can offload and where you can, if you have any tricky clients or, once a month I will have supervision. So yeah, I can talk about it if I want to, but I feel like I'm all talked out really. So I'm kind of good, but it's actually good to get to a place, like I haven't really told it like my story like this. And it's nice to be able to talk about it now without the emotion getting involved anymore.
Is that part of the healing?
Yes, I had to do a lot of healing, definitely. But it's good. And it's, I think I've finally got to that stage where I can tell it and help people in this way as well, you know? So, yeah.
Amazing, powerful lady. You know, we all go through so much different journeys and trials and tribulations in life, you know, but to be able to live it and then want to help other people so that actually they can heal and recover from it, you know, is even more inspiring to me, definitely. You know, it's very inspirational. It's definitely something you should definitely commend yourself for, you know. It does take a lot of strength.
Looking back at where you are now, Steph, and I guess maybe the last 20 years, what advice would you give to your younger self? What would you go back and tell your younger self to do?
Follow your passion if you know what you want to do. Know your boundaries and follow, like, you know, that thing that you're good at when you're young, make it into a passion. Follow what you're good at. I always wished that I knew what I wanted to do when I was younger, to really do what you love. So it's taken me a long time to get there. I wish somebody had told me that we create our reality as well. So like how we think really, really affects how we feel. And our words are so powerful. You know, I used to put myself down a lot and not feel like I was good enough, to strive for more, to strive for bigger and better. So I kept myself small, really, just following in my mum's footsteps, sort of thing. So being in a job where you when you're passionate and you're aligned with what you're supposed to do, things just flow better. You know, it doesn't feel hard. When you enjoy your work, it doesn't feel hard. So I would say, like, don't chase the money, chase your passion.
Well said.
I love that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
You've been a marvelous guest. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. It's been really good and refreshing and enlightening for me to tell my story with, and realizing even now that I've moved, because sometimes it was still hard to talk about without even getting emotional, you know, because it's part of our story. So yeah, it's good. So thank you.
Failure at 40.
Failure at 40. Failure at 40. Failure at 40. Failure at 40. Failure at 40. Failure at 40.